4 is the game that reignited the Pikmin series like a bonfire out of the blue. Literally, this game came out of freaking nowhere in 2023 and single-handedly got me addicted to the Pikmin franchise post-haste. So much so that I went on a complete rampage, played and 100% all of the 4 mainline Pikmin games. This game took a very long time to release. It took approximately 10 whole years to make Pikmin 4, which is kind of insane if you ask me, but then again, it took 9 years to make Pikmin 3. Let's hope we don't have to wait another 10 years or maybe even 12 years for Pikmin 5. This game is very often referred to as the easiest Pikmin game and one of the best first Pikmin games to get into when you want to dive into the Pikmin series. However, out of all of the main Pikmin games, this one is the one that I had the most fun with. Hands down, no questions asked, no competition. Is it my favorite game in the entire franchise, or is it just overhyped craziness that will be remembered as a one-hit wonder in the Pikmin franchise? Well, let's find out! Pikmin 4 starts off with Olimar crashing onto the planet that we know and sometimes love, PNF 404. Again. This little cutscene here will catch you up if you never played the Pikmin games, except there are a few anomalies, which we'll get into later. Olimar sends out a distress signal, and the rescue corps pick it up and set off to rescue him. However, they also crash, and now not just Olimar needs rescuing, but the rescue corps also needs a bit of a hand. Good gracious, how hard is it to drive one of those things? It can't be that bad! Anyway, the rescue corps and Olimar need some rescuing. Pronto, ASAP, no time to waste. That's where you come into the picture. Yes, you, the player. For the first time ever in Pikmin, you get to make your own character and set off to save the rescue corps and Olimar. I ended up going with this little cutie patootie and named her Willow. However, thanks to my capture card being an absolute butthole and not recording any of my footage, you'll be looking at this fellow instead. After some walking, you'll find Ochi, or Ochi. I have no idea how to pronounce this name, so I'm just gonna go with Ochi. If you don't agree, I'm sorry. And you also find Colin, the communications dude who reveals that the pilot of the SS Shepherd lost control whilst they were entering the planet's atmosphere, and they were forced to eject and make a crash landing. So now, we have a new mission objective: find the remaining rescue officers. Pikmin 4 also ended up bringing back caves from Pikmin 2. After a nearly 20-year-long absence, they're back in all their glory, and you encounter them pretty early on in the game. The first time you encounter one of these caves is when you have to rescue Captain Shepherd, who apparently fell into this cave earlier and is now stuck in there. Or something like that. Point being, she fell in, and we gotta go get her. After helping Shepherd and escaping the cave, we're finally at the ship, but this thing is pouring smoke and is very badly damaged and apparently was literally a few seconds away from exploding until Colin managed to shut it down. However, that means we're stuck on this planet with no way of searching for Captain Olimar, let alone returning back to base. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem. However, Captain Olimar sent out his journal logs with his distress signal, and apparently he found an alternate fuel called Sparklium. That name is so bad, I swear to goodness. Anyway, after gathering up some treasures that were scattered around the area, we could start converting them to Sparklium, and this is finally where the Pikmin appear for the first time in the game. Took you long enough, dudes. Yeah, this tutorial for me is a little too long, which makes sense because it's the longest tutorial in the entire series, mainly because there is a lot of dialogue. I understand they wanted to give more personality to characters and such, but there is a line and Pikmin 4 uses it like a jump rope. However, one thing I will praise this game on is attempting to set up a story, which in previous Pikmin games, we lacked majorly. Sure, the previous games had somewhat of a story, but it was mainly gather up spaceship parts, gather up money, gather up food to solve a huge food crisis. And that was it! The only story in Pikmin games beforehand were the journal logs and the cutscenes at the start and the ending of the game. That was it. Pikmin 3 tried to do a little bit more, but definitely not on the scale that Pikmin 4 ended up going for. The next day rolls around, and your little crewmate and Ochi set off to locate not just Captain Olimar, but the other 4 missing Rescue Corps officers along the way. However, after rescuing Russ, the scientist, you find out that it's not just Captain Olimar and the Rescue Corps who are in need of rescuing. Quite a few civilians have come to the planet as well, drawn by Captain Olimar's distress signal, and are stranded themselves. And now we gotta rescue them all as well. Oh, son of a Bulborb! Yeah, there are 3 main goals in this game. Rescue Captain Olimar being the main one, rescue the missing in action Rescue Corps officers, and rescue all of the castaways. Those aren't too fun odds to deal with if you ask me. I just realized, we haven't talked too much about the Pikmin yet. So let's talk about them a bit, shall we? In Pikmin 4, we have the normal basic functions of the Pikmin that have been ruined their DNA since Pikmin 1. They kill enemies, take the remains of said enemies, feed it to their onion, and boom! More Pikmin sprout from the ground. There are 8 different Pikmin types here in this game, the most in any game in the series. Red Pikmin, aka the default Pikmin. They are always the first one you discover unless you're playing Pikmin 3. They're immune to fire, and their attacks are slightly stronger than any of the other Pikmin. Then we have the yellow Pikmin. These guys aren't very good in a fist fight, but they can be thrown pretty high, dig faster than any other Pikmin, and are immune to electricity. Cool. The final OG Pikmin is the blue Pikmin. These little dudes are the only Pikmin that can swim, and they're pretty weak. But hey, they'll come in handy for watery areas. Now that's it for the main OG Pikmin, let's move on to the rest. The rock Pikmin. These dudes are really good for one-hit KOs on Bulborbs and breaking crystal walls. The purple Pikmin, who are stupidly strong and carry 10 times its own body weight, making carrying stuff back to the ship exceedingly easy. Just make sure you don't lose them. The winged Pikmin. These Pikmin can fly and are really good for taking out enemies that are in the air. And last but not least for returning Pikmin types, the white Pikmin. These dudes are resistant to poison and are good for taking on poisonous enemies. Now, Pikmin 4 did introduce 2 new Pikmin types, the first one being the Ice Pikmin. These little dudes are good for creating shortcuts by freezing water or mud, making a clear path for you and your squad, and they can even freeze enemies, which makes combat 10 times easier with these little dudes around. Just don't let them go near fire or you'll have a puddle instead of a Pikmin. There is one more Pikmin type, but we'll get into that later in the video. These Pikmin have come a very long way since their janky AI in Pikmin 1. The whistle mechanic is also better. If you accidentally whistle your Pikmin, they'll wait for a second and then go back to their task they were doing beforehand. Good gracious, that was so useful. However, to avoid completely breaking this game, you can only have up to 3 different Pikmin types out at a time, which makes sense. It wouldn't be a fair game. We just pop 10 of each Pikmin out and ran amok like a maniac. That wouldn't work at all. So I think that Pikmin 4 did an amazing job with attempting to balance everything out here, and it worked really well in the long run. You are only able to start off with about 20 Pikmin as well, so it's balanced well enough as you progress throughout the game. Now, the main objective of this game, like I mentioned many times at this point, is to rescue Captain Olimar, reunite with the missing officers of the Rescue Corps, and rescuing all the castaways who were either on this planet for exploration and research purposes, on a school field trip, news coverage, stylist ideas, and a lot more silly reasons, which will either give you a good giggle or ask, why are you even here? More of the latter in my case. To find these folks, you gotta go down into the caves. Now these caves will either give you warlike flashbacks from Pikmin 2, or you'll be delighted to see them again. For me, since this was my first proper playthrough of Pikmin 4, and didn't experience the hell that is Pikmin 2 all the way through yet, I was pretty interested in these caves. I thought they were very interesting. Well, at the time, Pikmin 2's caves felt randomly generated and very unpolished. These caves in Pikmin 4 function like actual levels instead of run amok, find treasure, and attempt to not die. Each cave is meticulously planned out, and Nintendo really went all out with designing each and every one of these caves. Another thing I love is that each and every one of these caves have certain elements that correspond to the area that you're currently in, which is a really, really nice touch. However, it's not just an empty cave. There are creatures, treasures, and puzzles scattered everywhere. You have to use the different Pikmin you strategically bring with you into these caves to figure out the best course of action, because some of these caves get a little bit tricky. Not excessively so, but it can get a little bit cuckoo. If you know, you know. Aside from the chaos of the caves, they are absolutely beautiful and they serve their purpose very, very well. They also contain quite a bit of treasure, which means sparklium! We need that stuff to power the ship, but not just the treasure has sparklium here. The enemies you encounter in the caves also have sparklium. So you might want to take them out too in order to fill up your tank to be able to get to the other areas and eventually leave this rock. So be sure to get your hands on as much sparklium as you can safely get your hands on. It's not just the caves that are really pretty. The overworld areas themselves are absolutely stunning. At times I felt like I was watching a nature documentary, not playing a Nintendo game. I'd even go as far to say that Pikmin 4 is one of the most beautiful looking games on the Switch, hands down. Sure, it's not on the level of, say, Breath of the Wild, Luigi's Mansion 3, or Super Mario Odyssey, but the Pikmin series has always had its own insanely beautiful looks in each of its games. I mean, look at Pikmin 3. Come on! It's so amazing how these games keep pulling off some of the most amazing looks in Nintendo's library of games. My favorite area in Pikmin 4 is probably Serene Shores. Not just because it gave me vibes of the beach, but also because it gave me really, really good vibes, and I had the most fun playing in that area. One thing I do want to talk about is the literal mascot and center point of merchandise for Pikmin 4, Ochi, the Rescue Corpse's rescue pup. He is adorable and very, very helpful in this game. He can carry Pikmin around on his back and even your little character. This is especially useful for going through water with Pikmin that aren't blue Pikmin. Ochi is pretty strong, having 5 times the strength of a normal Pikmin. And the best part about Ochi, he can be upgraded with gear to give him more health and make him immune to elements such as fire, ice, electricity, etc. You get the idea. Then there is training for Ochi. You can train him to be stronger, make him rush a bit quicker, train him to have a better chomp, even heal himself? What can't this space pooch do? He's also insanely helpful in Dandori battles, especially if you upgrade his strength. We'll get into Dandori in a bit. Sure, some people will say that he makes the game way too easy. Which, I mean, fair enough. In my case, I think Ochi opens up some more creative opportunities to solve puzzles, considering there are some moments in the game where you have to play as Ochi to solve a specific puzzle, and I found myself enjoying those moments quite a bit. When set up correctly, Ochi can basically become another captain and a mount at the same time, or just a really big Pikmin. Having Ochi around can really make your day more productive and a bit easier on your stress levels if you do it correctly. If he's not in Pikmin 5, we all riot, you hear me? I'm gonna keep this segment brief. Remember that Pikmin type I mentioned earlier in the video? Well, one thing you will encounter in Pikmin 4 are leaflings. Leaflings are castaways who have been exposed to oxygen, and they can only be cured of this leafling state using something called glow sap. Ugh. How do we get said glow sap? Well, this glow sap will only appear after a night expedition from something called lumicanol? Whatever. These things, this name sucks. This sucks worse than the sparklium. Anyway, after you rescue Yanni, you unlock the night expeditions, where you must team up with Ochi and these Pikmin known as Glow Pikmin. These Pikmin will help you defend the Lumicanol, or in some cases, Lumicanols, until morning comes around. Some levels in night expeditions are harder than others, but they're still enjoyable to me. Also, the fun part is that if you manage to get through the night without losing your Lumicanol and your Glow Sap, you'll not only get the Glow Sap, but you'll get to keep some of the Glow Seeds to summon Glow Pikmin later on, either on another night expedition, or they can be used in the caves as well. Cool, I actually love that mechanic a lot. However, there is one thing here that I think is one of the best rules in the game. You can't use the Glow Pikmin on the surface, which, you know what? Completely fair. That would just majorly break this game. Something that is core to Pikmin in general is Dandori, essentially the act of multitasking made into a competition. At least in this case, in Pikmin 4, there is something called Dandori battles. These battles are led by a walking red leaf-faced man? I wonder who that could be! But this little dude isn't alone. He has a pup companion of his own. Quite possibly the same pup from the intro with Olimar. Anyway, I'm sure it's not important. Dandori Battles is where you compete against this red leafling and his pup friend. You must collect items to add to your total score overall and get a higher score at the end of the Dandori battle. Some advantages you can have is collecting bonus items, items that are worth more points. These items do change as time passes, by the way. Also, sometimes the other team's Pikmin and your Pikmin will get into a standstill tiff over an item. So be sure to keep your eyes out for any Pikmin just standing around. Trust me, it is better to just let go of the item, or better yet, send Ochi after it. Because if you just leave them standing there, you're not gonna have an extra hand. And with that, your time will be eaten up faster than Kirby swallowing up all the grub at an all-you-can-eat buffet. There are also items that you can use to slow down your rival team's progress, like lightning or black smoke to confuse Moss and the Pikmin, or help you out, like spicy spray to make you go faster. Be sure to keep an eye out for those item capsules because, man, they can help you out if you're in a pinch. I found myself enjoying these Dandori battles quite a lot. It made me have a lot of fun. However, that's not the only Dandori action that Pikmin 4 has going on. In every area, there are other leaflings aside from the main red leafling that hangs around with Moss. There are usually 1 to possibly 3 leaflings in each area, and they will run these little Dandori challenges. These challenges are basically tests to see if you can manage your time well and gather up all the treasure and creatures around the Dandori arena. Collect all the treasure before the clock runs out, and you win. You can even earn a decent chunk of extra points if you beat the challenge with a chunk of time left, which is a fun reward to shoot for. Now, as you can imagine, as time goes on, you get further into the game, these Dandori challenges really start to rake up in the difficulty arena, which I actually freaking loved because it proved much more of a challenge, and it was actually a lot of fun to beat, and especially rewarding at the end, getting platinum on some of these freaking things that were just absolutely brutal. Now, one thing I have been dodging a bit is the bosses. We have quite a few returning bosses from the other Pikmin games, like the Emperor Bullbax, the Bug-Eyed Cramod, the Bread Bug, and many others. But the one that haunts everybody to this day from Pikmin 2 is him. The Water Wraith has become a staple of the Pikmin community due to how unexpected he was in Pikmin 2, and also his unexpected return in Pikmin 4. This thing right here has inflicted a lot of PTSD into the Pikmin players, me included. Now here's the kicker. I experienced Pikmin 4's Water Wraith before I experienced Pikmin 2's, and boy oh boy, that night that I experienced Pikmin 2's Water Wraith compared to Pikmin 4 will forever live rent-free in my head for as long as I live. Moving on. There are also new bosses like the Crusted Rump-Up, Snowflake Fluttertail, the Gildamander, Foolix, Groovy Longlegs, etc., etc. There are a lot of them. Pikmin 4 definitely didn't slouch on these bosses' variety. Difficulty is another thing though. Some of them were too easy, but man, once you got stuck on a boss, you were stuck there for a bit. Which happens as the game continues on. Sure, I myself got stumped on, of all things, the groovy long legs. But after you finally get over that difficulty and you manage to beat it, it's just all the more rewarding. Now, as much as I love Pikmin 4 and all, this game does have a couple of flaws, starting with its difficulty. The biggest thing being that this game is just too easy. Not even kidding, this is easily the easiest game in the Pikmin series so far, especially with the addition of Oatchi. No matter how much you love him, you gotta admit, he makes this game easy beyond belief. Like, for example, in Pikmin 2, you have absolutely no protection whatsoever against the water wraith. You just have to pray that you avoid him, that he doesn't decide to turn around and crush your Pikmin, and run for your life. However, in Pikmin 4, you just hop up on Oatchi's back and run away, possibly ditching your treasure along the way. But it takes a lot of the tension away out of this segment that made Pikmin 2's water wraith chase so freaking terrifying and effective. However, I'd argue that you can make the game harder by not relying so much on Oatchi. If you want a harder game, then just don't use Oatchi, or train him, or use Russ's gear. Heck, just leave Oatchi over there at the spaceship while he watches the chaos. But yeah, I can see why people view this game as the easiest of the bunch. The next big thing I do have to say is that there isn't a really good opportunity for multiplayer in this game. The only multiplayer mode you have here is very limited Dandori mode, and it's not even online. It's purely local. Which, I mean, to be fair, Pikmin isn't really a game that needs an online mode per se. But I just wish I could have played this game with some online buddies of mine instead of just letting them watch. It's a small complaint, but at the same time, I completely understand that Pikmin is more of a solo playing franchise. Other than those two small complaints, I really don't have any gripes with this game, surprisingly. I'm a huge fan of the Pikmin series. It's one of those games that just gives me warm and cozy vibes whenever I need a distraction, or it'll give me scary vibes like running from the water wraith. It's a really good game that introduced me to a wonderful franchise, one I won't be leaving anytime soon. Thanks, Pikmin. I hope you continue to flourish with Pikmin 5 sometime in the future. Hello everyone, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. In case you're wondering why I didn't talk about the near ending game, well, I did get to it, I 100%ed the game, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody who still hasn't played it yet. Anyway, huge thank you to everyone who helped me out on this video. And also another big thank you for you guys for watching. I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Take care guys, bye!